Word building, a strategic approach to the teaching of phonics. This approach to teaching phonics is based on students' natural tendency to seek out pronounceable word parts. How do novice readers naturally attempt to decode words? Apparently not the way they were taught. According to an analysis of readings by 7-year-old children, the most frequent strategy was to pronounce the beginning consonant and then the whole word, bat, which suggests that youngsters divided words into onset, initial consonant or consonant cluster, and rhyme. The example they're showing you here is that H is the onset and the letter E is the rhyme in the word he. The second example, the C is the onset and A-T is the rhyme, as in the word cat, and in the word drop, DR is the onset, and then OP is what they call the rhyme. This was confusing, so I thought I'd spell it out for you. The second most frequently used strategy was the use of pronounceable word parts as a base for reconstructing the entire word. For instance, a student encountering the word branch might read it as branch, branch, or ran, bran, branch, or an, ran, bran, branch. And not that they would do these aloud, but I think they're saying that they would be doing this in their head during their metacognition. Just a side note, that might not necessarily happen aloud. The student could possibly be doing this within his or her own mind as she thinks through the word. Although half the youngsters had been taught through an explicit synthetic phonics approach, there were very few instances of a word being decoded letter by letter. The other half had been taught to read through an implicit phonics method, one that advocated the use of context and initial consonants. However, there was very little evidence of use of context to decode difficult words. There was also limited use of phonics rules, except for the final E generalization, which is the silent E rule. Varied studies have revealed much the same thing. Glass and Burton also found a preference for the use of pronounceable word parts as a decoding strategy. When 15 decodable but rare words, astrolabe, and 15 nonsense words composed of pronounceable elements, gunare, fentorvite, were presented to superior decoders in grades 2 and 5, 85% of the responses fell into the sound cluster, pronounceable word part category. An example, st, m, u, lus, all those are pronounceable word parts. Hardy, Stennett, and Smythe, using nonsense words in isolation, and Rubeck, using real words in isolation, also found that elementary school students frequently used pronounceable word parts as a decoding strategy. In a series of experiments, Gibson and her colleagues found a tendency for both children and adults to use letter clusters or units of an order higher than the single letter to decode words. Santa found that children and adults tend to cluster letters into spelling patterns. Word building is a system for teaching phonics that capitalizes on this apparently natural tendency for students to seek out pronounceable word parts. It includes both techniques for teaching phonic elements and strategies that students can use to decode difficult words, analogy, and pronounceable word parts. Incorporated into the system is the concept of onset and rhyme, which according to some linguists may be the natural sound units of a word. Rhymes also have a more predictable pronunciation. Whereas the letter A may represent a dozen or more pronunciations, A followed by a consonant usually represents a short vowel.